It's actually why I'm reading the Bible, because I don't think I ever read anything in the New Testament. And I feel like I want to get to the crazy stuff. I want to get to the wild.
Yeah, there's some look, as a Catholic school educated all boys product, there are some books where it's like, do you know about the book that's too dangerous for the Bible? And there's some lost books.
Huh?
Lost books of the Bible.
What?
Lost books of the Bible. Yeah.
So I'm going to read it and I'm not even going to get the good stuff?
Yeah. You're going to have to get to the director's cut version.
Ian
The Snyder cut. Hey!
Hi! I'm so sorry I'm late.
Hi. I should get up, but I didn't.
What's up?
But I didn't. Nice
Come
kicks.
on in.
Fresh kicks.
Fresh kicks.
Looking
Fresh
good.
kicks for the East
We're
Coast.
just talking about the lost books of the Bible. Don't worry. It's
Yeah.
not a big deal.
They lost them?
Yeah, they lost them, according to Pablo.
I mean, there's a whole list.
Are you saying I should try to
There's
find
a whole
them?
list.
Oh, shit, really?
I'm thinking you may become an evangelical Christian by the end of your journey
How many
through
books are there?
the lost books of the Bible and the forgotten books of Eden.
Two different things?
Two different things. Look, I'm not here to subject Ian
reading the
to
Bible.
religious.
Are you actually going through the
conspiracy.
Bible?
Yes, I am.
What?
It's
No,
a
you're not.
slog. Yes, I am.
Where did you...
Ian, it's an incredible thing that Katie's doing for fun.
Just doing it because I'm curious.
How long have you been on your...
A couple months.
Your Exodus?
A couple months, and and there's been times where I'm really into it, and then there's times where I'm like, I don't want to read it today, and so I don't. But it's been a journey.
Have you entered the New Testament yet?
No, that's where I'm trying to get to, because
Yeah.
that's what the religion I'm supposedly a part of believes, and I don't think I feel like everything I was taught was Old Test.
Yeah.
So I feel like
Old
I
Test
gotta
is
get
the big
to the new-
hitters.
I know. It's the good stuff.
It's the...
There's also some wild stuff. Like
Go on.
Lot, whose daughters were like, we don't have
sure.
babies, and so they
When you say
and they
when
get
you say
pregnant.
it's a lot, you mean literally talking about
yes,
lots.
Talking about
it's
lot.
a lot. It's a lot.
You're where for Ian to catch up? Where are you?
I just finished Ruth,
Yeah.
Ruth.
which is a very short,
She's an
short
old,
book of the
She's
Bible.
an old battle axe, huh?
Yeah, she sure is. She sure is.
So I want to start and bring order to this podcast by doing something that I've done to Katie a couple of times.
This could be anything.
Which is
Body
get you
slam.
drunk on a series of athlete alcohols. Body slam you through this table. Play some sound of some stuff that I have collected in preparation for this episode.
Field recordings.
Field recordings, because Ian, you're an Oregonian. Yes.
Yeah, proud Oregonian.
Okay, and Katie Nolan.
Beaverton's finest.
That's right.
Beaverton's
Top of
finest.
the food chain, jewel of the Pacific Northwest.
And Katie Nolan, of course, Boston's own.
That's right. Well, Framingham, but Boston can have me if they want me.
Fair enough. And the Venn diagram of all of these things, plus me, guy who
From
loves
here.
sports,
Weird.
is
Weird.
from here,
Weird to be from here.
So weird.
but does
Off-putting.
sometimes love psychedelics.
Okay.
The Venn diagram of all of us was, forever will be Bill Walton.
Shout out.
The late, great Bill Walton. And I've been trying to figure out, how do I pay tribute to this man that I loved?
Yeah.
I mean, Ian, you're a Blazers guy.
When he died, I was, contemplating his life and career and time with the Blazers. And I don't know if he's the greatest Blazer ever, because he was there for such a short period of time.
Right.
But I do believe he's the most Blazerist Blazer ever.
Yes.
There's no one who more epitomizes the Blazers or sports played in Oregon than Bill Walton.
And in fact, I had the great pleasure of interviewing Bill Walton on my show. And I had the experience that so many of us had at ESPN, Katie, which is you ask one question and suddenly you're in Narnia.
Yeah.
And so I want to play you a clip of a conversation we had just to set the table for the field recordings. This is how my convo with the great Bill Walton went. Well, I was curious, now that we're just getting into it, I'm curious when you got your TP.
Okay, so my teepee. I am a huge believer in the first Americans, the people who were here before we got here. I grew up in an area that San Diego is ringed by a lot of Native American tribes. The big overarching family tribe here in San Diego is the Kumeyays. There's lots of different ones. There's Borona and there's Sycuan. We all went to school together. We played together. We fought together. It was just our lives. It was fantastic. Anyway, so here we were. What was the question again? I got off track there.
It was just, when did you get it? When did you get the teepee that you're describing?
So I moved to Oregon to play for the Blazers. And one of the first things I did when I got to Oregon, we took a tour of Oregon. We went down to the U.S. Geological Service office in downtown Portland. And we got a map of all the natural hot springs in the state of Oregon. And we went around and with the goal, the purpose, to take a soak in every natural hot springs in the state of Oregon.
Wow.
I was hiking up this river valley somewhere near the Oregon coast. And it was, it's kind of rainy, misty, fog, beautiful sunshine, rainbows, calliopes, clowns, elk, eagles, beavers, fish jumping. I mean, it was like spectacular. And I looked up on the hillside as I came around the bend, and there, halfway up the side of the hill, was this teepee. And I said, whoa, this, what's this and who's in there? I got up halfway up the hill, and this guy comes stumbling out and starts yelling and screaming at me, who are you and what do you want? And I said, I'm just admiring your teepee, man. It's the coolest thing ever. That young man, his name is Jeb, and he and his wife, Nicole, they have TIPI.com, TIPI.com. One of the two coolest websites ever. Bob Dylan's website is very cool, too.
Bill Walton, I am high listening back to that. First off,
his internal monologue is J.R.R. Tolkien. There's so much backstory.
Every clause is the Silmarillion.
Yeah.
What's wild is you guys didn't even put that Neil Young music bed under that. That's just what comes out when he starts talking and telling a story. It's naturally set to.
That and patchouli oil just exudes from his pores.
If you get a map to go soak in every hot spring in the state of Oregon, that sound just follows you around.
Yeah.
Wild.
That's a lot of hot springs.
It's so many hot springs.
It's a volcanic state.
I also love that he has a power rankings of websites, Bob Dylan's website,
Sure.
and TP.com.
Okay, what's going on Bob Dylan's website?
You find that out.
Okay.
In the meantime, I want to tell you guys that the aforementioned Jeb, proprietor of TP.com, is a man that I called up recently.
Oh, wow.
I'm Jeb Barton. My interest in life has been human consciousness. So I've taught and studied that for about 55 years. And this was when I lived on the coast in Oregon, looked across a highway actually, and saw this little yellow Volkswagen pull up. And then I saw this huge thing begin to unfold out of this Volkswagen of all things. I said, can I help you? Are you interested? Obviously the teepee, that's what I did. I said, are you interested in this? He said, yeah. And that's how that friendship started. And then we, over the years, got into much deeper conversations and very unique conversations about the nature of mysticism and the nature of reality.
If you were to try to explain what Bill Walton's view of reality was.
That's actually not hard, because Bill and I talked about that a lot. There is what you and I see out here, streets and people and cars and buildings and things going on. But there's also something else that is way beyond the superficial goings-on of personalities and things. And Bill knew about that. And that is where he hung out. He didn't hang out in the ego. And then the exuberant personality, the aliveness, the fun, the almost court gesture part of Bill was a result of being grounded in this deeper place, the invisible realm that he knew about.
So Bill Walton bonded with this guy, Jeb. And Jeb, when he says he practices and teaches the study of human consciousness and has been doing that for almost
55 years.
55 years.
6 decades thereabouts.
It's a doctorate at this point, right?
Oh, he is. I just want to tell you that the conversation I had is so long.
No way. You don't say.
I learned so much about myself, and it made Bill Walton, the character, into both more and less of one, because I was like, oh, Bill was about this life. This was the dude he was talking to, a dude who, by the way, we'll show this on like the YouTube video version of this on DraftKings Network as well. The dude has 125 plants in his apartment. You can imagine Jeb. You know Jeb.
Yeah, you know Jeb.
Ian,
I know Jeb.
It's the most Oregonian conversation I've ever had.
Did acoustic guitar music start playing
Yes.
in the middle?
Yes.
When he says he lives at the coast, actually just across the highway, I also know exactly what he means. In Oregon, it's forests right into beach, right into ocean.
Best.
There's like no membrane. There's no like plains or anything like that in between. It's wood. So this is a man who lives in the woods by the misty ocean, which is where you would assume a wizard would live.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's inhabiting wizard spaces.
Katie, did you know that in the Oregon coast, Pacific Northwest in general, which I vacationed to for the reasons Ian is describing, for the reasons Jeb Barton maybe lives, I'm going to sound like Bill Walton here when I say there are bald eagles and orcas and humpback whales.
And gooey ducks.
Gooey ducks all over the place.
Lots of gooey ducks.
Oh, yeah.
That's more of a Puget Sound thing. That's more of a Puget
sorry.
Sound.
I'm so
We
sorry.
don't claim that in
I'm
Oregon.
sorry.
It's not okay.
You said Pacific Northwest.
But we'll
and
work
that's just
through
what
it
I
in the next.
assume.
That's
It's where
not the
they,
same
those
thing.
big
We were talking about
penis
Oregon,
shells.
pretty specifically Oregon.
Okay,
Yeah.
well.
So you don't claim the penis
sorry.
shells.
So
No, we don't
what's-
claim the penis shells. We do claim elk,
Okay.
and some of them have penises.
Okay.
Do they have
I'm
shells?
back in.
Some of them have shells.
You
The elk
lost
there
me.
just wander through the towns though they have this knowledge that the towns are incidental and unpermanent.
Huh.
And they're like, well, we're just going to keep walking through here.
Nice.
And for the next 1,000 years, we'll do the same after you
Sick.
people
Are gone.
are gone forever.
And that feels like what Jeb was talking about.
Yeah.
Incidentally. Like
Yeah.
the hidden reality, the hidden space that he and Bill accessed. I imagine them in a teepee together, basically doing what you just described the elk doing.
I think, right, you see it just meandering through time and everything permanent is incidental. There's this sense, I think it's being on the West Coast, where you're at the end, you know, and being especially on the coast of Oregon. Like, you can be in LA or even in San Diego, where Bill is from, and, oh, there's civilization here. It's city right up into the ocean. When you're at the Oregon coast, it really does feel like you're at the end of something in a way that's kind of fighting back against everything that's tried to take it.
You know what I love about the Oregon coast also? The beaches are wide as hell.
Yeah, they are. Wide.
Meaning what?
You know a wide beach?
Like the
As in, like, you know, it's not like a little strip.
of
It
sand.
is
It's like a lot of sand.
Deep sand. Yeah.
Okay.
You can drive a Jeep on it. You can build a bonfire.
Well,
riding
you
a
can.
bike. I rented a bike and rode it.
Yeah. It's real fun. You can eat boysenberry saltwater taffy on the coast of
Okay.
Oregon.
Yeah.
Marionberry.
Marionberry, absolutely.
That berry's having a moment right now. I had never heard of it until recently. Now it's kind of like popping up.
It is.
It's
Van
the,
Leeuwen has a Marionberry.
Who does?
Van Leeuwen?
Oh, Van Leeuwen has a Marion.
They have a Marionberry cornbread.
It's the Chapel Roan of berries.
I love Chapel Roan.
Just found out about Chapel Roan.
Did you
What's
see
that?
her
Could not wait to
crowd at
drop the
Governor's
reference.
Ball?
I
She's like,
did.
It was crazy. I'm so happy for her.
She's like this
musical artist, yes.
Gen Z Kate Bush musical artist
She rules.
who's taking the country by storm.
You know, she works with the same guy who Olivia Rodrigo works with, who used to be the lead singer of a little band called As Tall as Lions that Katie Nolan was a big fan of in college.
Now it feels like we're getting a little rural Oregon in this conversation.
Mm.
I
In
don't
my
know.
mind.
I think I've been to Oregon once, and I
Yeah.
think it was to go to the comedy club. So I don't think I've been one of Dan's favorite comedy clubs.
I just turned my microphone off. Or my headphones. What did I do?
I've done whatever you've done
What
so
did I
many
do?
times.
What
in
did I
that
do?
seat.
What did
Probably
I
a dial.
And I'm back. Yeah, the comedy. It's a great comedy club.
Yeah.
I would not say it's indicative of.
No, I didn't get an Oregon experience.
There's a nice mural behind you,
Yeah,
which
saw that.
I
portrays some
did
bridges.
go to a Mexican restaurant in Portland
Yeah.
that also had a strip club behind it.
Okay.
Were they one, or were you downtown? Was it Mary's and then the Mexican food restaurant next to it, and they shared a bathroom?
Yes.
Yeah. I've been to one
Sharing
of
a
those two
bathroom
places.
is sure a
I've
thing
been
to
in
share.
I've been in the bathroom.
I've relieved myself at either of those establishments.
Mary's Club, which has since moved and no longer shares a space with
Aw.
that Mexican food restaurant.
Shame.
But that's that was like the oldest strip club in Portland,
I
famously.
mean, it is history. That's
Yeah.
why I went.
WW2 soldiers
Wow.
partied at that strip club. Yeah.
Wow.
Speaking of old shit, how is Bob Dylan's website looking?
Oh, it just looks like an artist's website. It just says like, but you can buy his album that's being re-released, or like, here's
Doesn't
a
sound
review
nearly
of his.
as good as
There's
Jeff's.
nothing. I think he was
Can-
probably just trying to say he really likes Bob Dylan, but I can't see how anybody would spend that much time, unless I'm missing something because I'm on the mobile version.
He's just like clicking around, like, oh, links, dates. Oh my God.
Part of the thing about Bill is that every time I saw him, he made me happy.
Yeah.
And so when he died, I want to ask you guys, like, what was the sensation that you felt? Because he wasn't just, wow, here's a historical figure. And he was, by the way, maybe the greatest college basketball player of all time, as well
Yeah.
as one of the would have been greatest NBA players of all time. Ian, as our Oregon delegate,
Thank you.
what was your reaction?
It was sad, but not almost more like, oh, the earth is missing out on this energy, and not the energy is like missing out on experiencing the earth anymore.
Mm.
I felt like if you're going to die and you can look back, on your deathbed at like that kind of life, it's almost not even sad anymore, right? I'm sad for the people around him. It's sad for his family, obviously, that kind of thing. It's sad for us who aren't going to get to hear him popping on that. Well, there's no Pac-12 anymore. So what would he even pop onto?
Right. The Conference of Champions.
Yeah, old Cal's track team with magisterial performances on the steeplechase out there, but like the echoing of Mankind's approach to philosophy, but portrayed through a pole vault. I don't know, man. It wasn't really sad as much as it was. It was also so nice the way social media came together.
Katie, it was
Yeah.
like one of the few things that happened on social media recently where I'm like, this is heartwarming.
This is what it's for.
Very rare when you log on and your algorithm is serving you up a lot of heartwarming, kind, loving, thoughtful, introspective retrospectives on a guy's life. I felt sad in the sense that like we miss that energy. I feel like he represented for me, and I never met him, but represented for me like the whimsy that sports should be like embracing more, and that we don't. And I know it's because he came from a place of like, I also am very good at this sport, so you really can't discredit anything I'm saying.
Right.
And I so appreciated what he brought. And I hate whenever I use social media so stupidly that whenever somebody I really like respect or admire or care about dies, I'm like, how do I even say anything here that makes any sense and isn't just like, I liked him too. Like I never know what to. So I just retweeted what other people said. That's where I've netted out on my RIPs for people, is like finding people who knew the person and amplify their voice. That's me letting you know that like, damn, I'm bummed about this.
Mm-hmm.
But what you just said, I think, actually is, for me, one of my big takeaways also, which is he was somebody who took sports so seriously that he compared random athletes to like, Leonardo,
Yeah.
like the ancients, the greats. When I watch Boris Diaw, I think of...
It was 201 years ago today. Yeah. With Beethoven's Symphony Number 3 in E flat, which which escorted in the age of Romanticism in music. And when I look at Boris Diaw, I think of Beethoven and the age of the Romantics.
And at the same time, he was so the opposite when it came to his whimsy. Like taking something so seriously and also not at all at the same time is something that only a Hall of Famer can pull off with credibility, to Katie's point. And is also like why I want to figure out like the right way to remember him, because he was all of these things.
Yeah.
He loved the Pac fill in the blank number so unironically while also being so absurd about it.
Yeah.
All of which made me want to ask Jeb Barton how he and Bill, in their voyage through mysticism, talked about death.
Jeb, I'm just curious how you think Bill may have viewed death, how you and he may have talked about it.
Yeah, we did discuss that because it is an integral part of the mystical understanding about how to live. One of the reasons that Bill has such great exuberance, because when you no longer fear death, now you can live. Now you can live uninhibited. Because Bill knows, and I know that really no one dies. You only, if I maybe kind of flip it here, you simply change email addresses. No one dies. Your essence cannot be annihilated. Yes, your biology will stop. It will stop functioning. But it's like a car. We are the driver of the car. The car is our neurobiology. And we'll drive this car around for a while, and then when we're finished with it, we'll go somewhere else and get another car. Bill knew that. And so I'm sure that he was, looking forward to, well, this is going to be a next really great adventure, So I definitely still feel very much like he's sitting across the table from me. I can feel Bill's essence, the Bill of Bill, the essence of Bill Walton. There's the real you. I can talk to Pablo, who I'm speaking with now, but there's also a Pablo of Pablo. The Pablo of Pablo is the one that keeps going on. And that is untouchable and is beyond time space. So in a way, he's not gone anywhere. The Bill of Bill.
I love Jeb.
Yeah, Jeb
I hope you
rules.
guys
Jeb
also
rules.
feel.
I also
love
found myself feeling relieved when he was talking about the Bill of Bill, and then when he brought up the Pablo of Pablo, I felt scared.
Yeah.
I was like,
Pablo
oh,
of
Pablo's
Pablo.
going to continue. The Pablo of Pablo will stay here.
The Pablo of Pablo is still going to be podcasting. That's the rub. My essence is podcasting.
Content.
But in the sort of like hippy dippy mysticism, there is like a fundamental thing that I felt resonate with me, which is that when you either get super high and or zoom out in your brain on what's happening here, it's the idea that all of us, if we believe in anything, it's the idea that there is something truly essential and essence about us that is not about the meat sack we inhabit.
Right.
It's weird to have talked about websites with Bill Walton and email addresses with his buddy when it comes to, mysticism.
You just changed to tp.org at some point. Yeah, you never die.
Bill Walton's just on Gmail now. But
You know that dude. You know Bill Walton wasn't on Gmail. He must have had the early. He was
Like
on
an AOL account.
Yeah, AOL.
Earthlink.
Or Ask Jeeves.
Earthlink.
Earthlink.
The redheaded stranger Earthlink.
A third-party email address.
Well, more like the missinglink.com.
But there is something to these Oregonians where I'm like, I am not at the level of transcending consciousness that they are at, but I want to be the more I hear from them. And I too feel like we are indulging both the absurd and also like the very sincere. Like that is how Jeb actually feels.
Yeah, right.
He thinks Bill Walton, and he knows Bill Walton is at the table with him. And I want, when any of our loved ones pass on, I want to have the conviction that Jeb has about like, no, they're just on yahoo.com.
The grandma of grandma is still out there.
Yes.
We still want that grandma of grandma.
Yes.
I honestly think, going back to the Oregon of it all, I think and this is probably true in any area where it's more natural than industrial or commercial, right? Which is true at the Oregon coast. I think there's something about having the biggest things around you be trees.
Oh, I
instead of
love this
buildings.
take.
Yeah, like trees.
Love this take.
Being able to walk through them and having that be the thing that makes you feel small rather than other people's accomplishments.
Industry rather than industry.
But having yourself put into perspective.
Yes.
By these things that are also infusing you with life.
Yes, at the same time, I never feel better than when I'm walking through a forest. And I know that feels corny, but like truly,
same.
I feel like amazing. I feel like my blood pressure go down and my pulse slow and just like feel really like at peace.
It's why Jeb Barton surrounds himself and why I, on my own small New York apartment level,
How many plants do you have?
I only have like 25
That's a lot of
That's a
plants
lot
for
of
a New York
plants.
apartment.
I'm no Jeb,
I
but
have 4 fake trees. I'm afraid to kill anything.
Have you named them?
No, God, no.
No.
I
Too
barely
attached,
acknowledge
too
them.
close.
Yeah.
Katie's going to name them after the books in the Bible.
All right.
Ah.
Possibly. I'm just reading it out of curiosity. I'm just
Leviticus.
very curious.
We're all searching for
Leviticus?
answers as
Yeah,
to what's going on
I feel
here.
like the world's about to end.
Are you building an ark?
Yeah, I could.
You should.
I could.
Yeah.
On the Oregon of it, although the thing about you said about trees, the thing that brought it home for me was when they started talking about how every day you should go outside and ground yourself by like literally touching grass. I know it's a thing we say to people now to be like, go touch grass. But when I realized how far I would have to go from where I live to try to
grass.
find grass, and not just like grass that was like kind of shipped in, like
Sure.
naturally occurring grass, kind of bummed me out.
Yeah.
Kind of bummed me out pretty hard.
Brush AstroTurf? Is that
Yeah,
what
go
that
to the
is?
dog
Yeah.
run on the second floor of my building, which is actually just a giant piss pad and smells as such, especially in the warmer months.
Ooh,
Oh, God.
that bouquet.
Oh, it is
you
summer.
open the
It's
door and
summer,
you're like,
baby.
oh God, there's dogs that have peed here many times.
The piss winds of New Jersey.
That's right.
Yeah.
So speaking, though, of sensing something, smelling it perhaps, feeling it perhaps, something in the air, I got a voicemail
Oh my God.
from Jeb.
Okay.
Wow.
And Jeb, again, has studied human consciousness, mysticism for 55 years. And after we had talked and had this conversation, he left me a voicemail. And as an update, we have a bit of breaking news.
Oh.
Good morning, Pablo. It's Jeb Barton in Bend, Oregon. Well, Bill Walton did show up. Showed up at 5:40 in the morning this morning. I was completely in a dead sleep. And all of a sudden, I just woke up and I was looking in my mind at Bill's face and with that big smile on it, only there was more than a smile. It was like a grin. It was even bigger than a smile, and his eyes were squinted. And it's a kind of a grin that a person has when they know something and something's about to be said or something. But very, very interesting. I've got a list of 34 of such things that have happened to me in my life through the years. All, very anomalous like that. Some of them, much more extreme. But I thought that was very interesting. And it's not uncommon that kind of thing happens. It's not really that uncommon at all.
So I am currently on another investigative quest to get the full list from Jeb
Yeah, all
Barton.
34. 34
He
encounters.
has as many encounters as Donald Trump has felony convictions, which is a
Wow.
remarkable statistic.
It is. I feel like years ago, society met Jeb with an exclamation point. And now we've met Jeb with a question mark.
That's right.
Followed by an exclamation point.
Yes, it's an interrobang. He's an interrobang of a man.
Followed by a comma and then several hieroglyphs.
Yeah. At earthlink.net.
At
Couple
Earthlink
wingdings, at tp.org.
Now he's in Bend, Oregon. So now he's on the other side.
Yes.
Now he's in the mountains.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
We're going to get into a yellow Volkswagen Bug and go visit Jeb.
I would love
I'm
to
down.
traverse Oregon
that
in the
is
yellow
down.
Volkswagen Bug.
Yeah.
my dream for all of us.
Let's
Yeah.
do it.
All right, Ian. So when does it come out, actually? Tell me.
Today.
Today?
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you very
I didn't know it was
much. Yeah.
Okay, so we're congratulating Ian because he's at this table to share and tell, and also because his book is out this week. Author of T-Shirt Swim Club, Stories from Being Fat in a World of Thin People. It's by you and your sister.
Yeah. Dr. Eliza Carmel.
I
Shout
have,
out.
I
Shout out
have
to
an
Doctor.
advance, uncorrected proof.
You do.
Full of things that have been uncorrected.
Innuendos, threats, rumors, just all sorts of stuff that could get me in legal trouble. Yeah.
Pre-lawyer review. Ian was talking all sorts of
All sorts of stuff. I saw the Kennedy assassination in there. You think it's just about being fat. No. That's
no.
just a jumping off point.
So what did you bring us today, Ian, in terms of how you want to share with us something from this book?
Well, the book is about growing up as a fat kid and turning into a fat adult and then eventually trying to get healthier. But one of the chapters in there, and the thing I wanted to talk about the most, is my experience with the character Fat Bastard
Oh my
when
God.
I was a kid.
So we got to explain for those who are, I think we're just old enough where
Ugh.
we need to do the thing.
Oh,
I
that's,
think so.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
It is.
You all don't know who Fat Bastard is?
Which
That's
is both
crazy.
terrible and I guess wonderful
And
in
probably
a way.
good. Maybe it's
good.
progress. Maybe that's what progress looks like.
But you used to be able to do call and response with these jokes. I mean, like,
Get in my
Hey, that's right.
These were the memes before memes,
Mhm,
right?
movie
These
quotes.
became
100%.
movie quotes. It's Simpsons quotes. These were like how people communicated with each other. they have these big monocultural moments. And when the sequel to Austin Powers came out, Austin Powers, I think it was The Spy Who Shagged Me was number 2.
I think.
I'll double check, but that sounds right.
They introduced this character, Fat
That's right.
Bastard, which was Mike Myers playing a Scottish character, which is, well within his oeuvre. But done up in some of the most
Sweaty.
sweaty, but also unfortunately realistic looking fat makeup I've ever seen portrayed on, like, better than The Whale.
I agree. Brendan Fraser, you are a pale imitation of the prosthetic SAG.
It hurt in every way. It was amazing.
It feels like this shouldn't have been able to air uncensored.
Right.
It shouldn't have. They greased the wheels. They greased a lot of things to get
so
Fat
many.
Bastard
So
out there.
shiny.
It felt like there was the only way they get one that accurate is if there's a call coming from inside the house. There had to be a fat person on the inside being like, no, make the breasts a
No,
little
make it
bit
like
more
this.
like this.
Move them out to the sides a
Yeah.
little bit rather than forward.
Right, yeah, put them
Right.
over here. They
Yeah.
should be in the
Too
armpits.
perky.
Too
Yes.
perky. No, he's been fat a while. And it was horrible because it was so funny. And it was so funny. Like this is Michael Myers at the peak of his powers.
Yes.
But you're sitting there in the movie theater watching Fat Bastard like it's some kid's birthday. You're laughing. Everyone else is laughing. And then as you're leaving that theater, you're filled both with, oh man, that was really funny. I love that. And because you know how the world works at that point, you're like, oh no, I'm going to hear Get in My Belly yelled at me for the next 2, 3, 4 years. And it wasn't just that. When I was born in 1984. So when this came out, I was 13. I was still catching like Fat Albert and Truffle Shuffle
Oh, wow.
demands. I don't even remember Fat Albert.
But you were getting the
I was gonna hey, and I'm like, it's probably the one thing we will preserve from Bill Cosby's legacy is people doing the Fat Albert. No, that's gonna be weird. Like people will be.
It's far enough removed.
It is.
that
still
people-
holds
yeah.
up.
It's like, well, we can still use that to bully fat kids, right? We're not getting rid of that.
Let's not get crazy.
People would demand I do the Truffle Shuffle, and I'm like, I have not seen the movie you're referencing, but I will.
What is that?
Goonies.
The Goonies.
But it's basically, I mean, for those who are uninitiated,
Yeah.
it is the chubbiest kid doing it to himself,
Doing
right?
it to himself.
Right, like lifting up his shirt and then like grabbing his rolls and
just shaking them around. And people would do that. I'd be on the football field. Other people would come up and like do that to me. Like do the Truffle Shuffle kind of thing. Yeah. And they would laugh about it. And I get like the kid doing it to himself is actually pretty representative of, the whole reason I got into comedy.
Right. So what is the evolutionary adaptation here? How does this work?
Yeah, so you think it's going to get better. Like Eric Cartman was another one. Even like Star Wars. Like killed
Jabba
me.
the Hutt.
Jabba the Hutt is the only. There's 2 fat characters in all of
That
Star Wars.
name alone.
They could have called him Jabba the Space Slug,
Right.
and we would have got it. Or like Craig the Hutt, and they still would have been like, you mean a fat guy? Okay, we got it. But he's a fat guy, and he's a slobbering, disgusting space gangster who commits like sexual assault on Princess Leia.
Yeah.
And then the only other fat character in all of Star Wars is named Porkins.
Oh, that's right.
He's an X-Wing pilot, who lives for 3 seconds, blows up. He's just fat. His name is Porkins, and then he dies. And meanwhile, you have Darth Vader, who is fat guy cultural appropriation.
Explain.
He's asthmatic. He loves
Okay.
magic.
Yeah.
He's got a deep voice. He's got James Earl Jones, a fat king. They used his voice, but they
Not
they
his
had this-
body.
Not his body at all. No,
Never.
He
Never
should have been
that.
a big thick dude walking around. Like what?
Your
would it have
culture is
hurt?
not a costume.
It is not a costume, but they had this skinny British actor play him.
Right.
So they couldn't even do us that favor.
Damn. By the way,
Yeah.
Porkins, I'm in the Star Wars wiki.
Yeah.
His nickname was Piggy.
Yeah, yeah.
What? But your
'Cause it
name's
wasn't-
already Porkins.
They don't even have pork in space. It's Star Wars. There's no pigs. There's no pork. Anyway.
Doesn't make any sense.
So this was your reality growing up, and as I got older, I was like, okay, I'm sure it's going to get better. It's going to get better. I started getting into stand-up comedy. I started by making fun of myself because that's what you do. You walk on stage. You want to demonstrate some level of self knowledge. You want to say, I know what you're thinking, and then you get to some joke. One of my first stand-up jokes was me going on stage and saying that it's ridiculous that my name is Ian Carmel because I'm a 6'3", 350-pound Jewish man, and my name sounds like a whimsical British candy store. My name should be Shlomo Pudding Tits. And my catchphrase should be, better put some butter on it. And to me, that was like turning it on its ear a little bit, being like acknowledging the role that fat people play in stand-up comedy. But that's not why they were laughing. They were laughing because a fat guy was up there. Maybe some of them were. So you start to get involved in your own self-immolation, which continued to this point where I played, I got a audition for the show I'm Dying Up Here, which was a show about stand-up comedy in the 1970s. And
On Showtime?
On Showtime. And the audition was for a character called Tubbs the Obese Comedian.
Jesus.
I mean, that's a hell of an IMDb credit.
It's like Jabba the Hutt, but worse, right? Tubbs, that you could call him Tubbs, and we get it. Or you could call him, again, Craig the Obese Comedian, we get it. And I went in thinking like, okay, this is a funny, smart show. They're going to be doing some kind of
Send up of the idea of.
exactly. And then
Right.
he's going to come off stage and be like, like a smart person who understands what he's doing up there. They wrote, like, in the script was some bit about, like, I'm so fat that when I get off a bus, it catches on fire, which I don't really understand as a joke.
Trying to diagram that.
So
I don't-
Is it because it goes.
It had to work so hard.
When it
I don't know.
I don't know.
fires something.
I'm not sure.
They didn't let me punch it up.
Right.
And I get up there thinking, and you don't know, like, they send you your scene, so you don't know what else is happening. I go up there and do it, and when I do the audition, I'm like, I'm gonna make them choke on Tubbs the Obese Comedian. So I weighed 420 pounds at this point, so I went full, like I gave myself a pronounced double chin and like wobbled my jowls after every joke, just like, all right, here, this is what you want, and then
Yeah.
I got the role.
Oh, God.
And that should have been like a warning sign, I guess. And I go up and do it, and then I film it, and you leave thinking, well, hopefully the other characters are going to be like, hey, he's so much better than that, or something. But no, it was just this fat guy pastiche. He was annoying, dumb. They talked about how he was like one of the worst comedians. And then you watch that, and you realize once again, like, oh, I'm someone's fat bastard.
Right.
Fewer people saw I'm Dying Up Here, but I'm still the guy who went up there.
Significantly fewer people saw him dying up here.
Say what?
I just said significantly fewer.
Significantly.
I didn't want to say it out loud.
Way fewer people.
Showtime was a tough one. You had to pay extra just specifically for show. It was the first one to go for me.
You had to
among
like
the-
that show about pirates. You had
Yeah.
to be like really into the
You
black
had to really
sails.
like Dexter or what's the one with the dysfunctional family?
Shameless.
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 Yeah, those were the
Yeah,
big.
yeah.
I feel like those were their big vehicles.
You had a 2-episode arc on I'm Dying
Oh
Up Here.
yeah, baby! I
Dang.
went
I'm
back for
seeing this.
seconds.
he left that bus and it blew up behind him for some reason.
I went back in the seconds because you're just, I don't know, man. You're like, you get beat down to where you're like, this is what I am in this town.
Right.
This is who I am in Hollywood.
Right,
I've
the-
since really not continued acting.
I was going to say, the title of the show was also, in a sense, a description for how you were feeling about all of it.
Right, like I was dying. Yeah.
It feels like to me the like reaction to like representation is important. It's like it's not just about seeing other fat people in media. It's like you need to see other fat people in media whose entire identity and like existence and reason for being is as the fat guy.
Right.
It's like there wasn't ever in our childhood. This is what reading your book, which I did, did
Slipped
for
it
me.
in between chapters of the Bible.
Was that I took a little break and read from my savior.
Yeah.
But like we didn't have any representations of a character who was something else and happened to be fat. It was
Almost
always it
never.
led with like, isn't this person fat? And
I don't know. Dennis Nedry in Jurassic Park was a very multifaceted character.
That's true. That's true. He had a lot going on. He was conniving.
Exception that proves the
thieving.
rule.
yeah. No, he was an evil fat guy.
Boy, that Barbasol can was satisfying, huh?
God.
Didn't you want one of those?
Yes.
Yeah, it still had the shaving cream in it. Almost called it whipped cream.
Whipped cream. It does look
But-
tasty though.
It did.
It's like a
We all
nicer
were thinking
foam.
it.
Yeah.
We were
Yeah.
all thinking it. But to Katie, your point, like the other part of this is we're living in the era of Ozempic, of course,
Yeah.
and the era of like us sort of like trying to figure out, okay, what are we blaming people who struggle with their weight for?
Yeah.
And are we at a point where, and again, as a comedian, as someone who wants to make jokes, I also get like, if something is funny, we want to laugh at
Play it up.
And so
Yeah.
there is this. We're at an interesting inflection point where we're welcoming complexity while also wondering if welcoming complexity is making us lose something about what comedy actually is about.
I mean, it has to come from pain. That's one of the. Comedy doesn't have to. It can come from absurdity or any number of things, but it tends to come from pain, or at least some of the origin story of comedy often ends up being pain. And as the world, hopefully gets more comfortable for fat people, then maybe there'll be less pain around that. Like if we didn't treat fat people differently, like I wouldn't have a joke about, sitting next to me on an airplane if that didn't suck. You know, like if the root of that wasn't that it sucked. But I don't know. You look at like Fat Bastard, and other than him being absurd, you sit and wonder, like, why is this inherently funny? Like, why is a fat person inherently funny? And the only answer I can come up with is that, like, I guess it reminds us of mortality in some way, or that they wear their insecurities on the outside, whereas the rest of us kind of have to dig for them. Like, I still can't really identify that. And there was truth in that character, because one of the most devastating things about Fat Bastard, there was a part where he said, like, I eat because I'm sad, and I'm sad because I eat, and I'm a 13-year-old kid watching that. You know, I'm like, oh man, he just like nailed something I'd never thought of before. And then 2 seconds later, he farts. And it's so
Still
funny.
laughing at the memory of when I first saw that.
It's so good.
Admittedly.
It's so good. Yeah, but you're right. I mean, as the world gets more accommodating to people and more afraid to make fun, I think it would be easier to make fun of fat people if the world didn't suck so much for fat people, kind of on every level. Because you'd be like, all right, the joke's okay. I got so fat that my friends didn't even make fun of me. And that's you know when you've crossed across the threshold, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. God.
So what do we do? How do we fix it? The three of us here
Let's
now,
go.
right now.
Ideas on the table.
Right.
It sounds like what you want to do is, at the very least, Ian,
Yeah.
urge Hollywood to come up with better names.
That would be a
Can
start.
we start? Can we
Well,
start
name
with
the
that?
character before you even decide they're going to be fat. Try that.
Try that.
Name the character before you know what their body looks like.
It's like what Katie was saying. Let fat people play just like a school teacher or a barber or whatever, and it's not about them being fat. They can have other even toxic characteristics. Just don't make it the basis of it being fat.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Because I'm not up on this culture as much, but where do we stand on the word fat?
I love the word fat. I say the word fat. I tend to think that we will switch out words like they're NASCAR tires. You know what I mean? Or F1 tires, I guess is more hot right now. Where it's like, we'll put that on. We'll let that soak up all the sin. And then we take it off, and then we switch a new word in. So I have been with animosity called fat, overweight,
Right.
obese, tubby,
Which one do
chunky,
you love
husky.
the most?
I mean, I separate each chapter in the book with a different one. I do love well upholstered is my favorite. We're well upholstered. That one rules. I feel like a love seat.
You know who loves that term also?
Huh.
The grandma of grandma.
The grandma of grandma loves well, although she
she's
has
here
put
with us.
plastic over it.
That's right.
She has put
That's right.
plastic over the upholstery.
At the end of the show, Ian, we
Yeah.
say what we found out today.
Mhm.
Yes.
And so, what did we find out on this journey through human nature and actual nature?
I found out that gooey ducks are not from Oregon. They are from Puget Sound.
Puget Sound.
And
in Washington.
I should get my right before I
Please.
speak on it.
It's going to be a real explicit image. Like, of all the things we've talked about, showing a gooey duck,
duck.
Tough.
even more
It's tough.
profane than fat bastard.
Yeah.
It is more profane. It is more visually jarring than a shirtless fat bastard. You go to grocery stores in the Pacific Northwest, they'll have gooey ducks in tanks.
Crazy.
And that is
Wild.
not what you want to see around food, even
Wild.
though they are technically food. They
Wild.
look like a space
Have you ever
penis.
had one?
A gooey duck? Yeah, I've
Do
eaten
they
gooey
taste
duck.
good?
They're
Are they
chewy.
Chewy?
They're
Oh,
not
chewy.
God, you
They're
don't
more,
want 'em to
more
be
like
chewy.
more like a chewy duck.
Get out. Get out. Get out.
IanCarmel.com for tour dates.
What did you learn today?
What did I learn today? God, I learned a lot. I learned that it's TIPI and not TEEPEE.
Well, don't ask the New York Times crossword because sometimes they'll even do like TEPEE.
Well,
just one E in the first.
I don't know between
that
the old gray lady and
investigation
Jed.
continues.
Yeah.
Yeah. How to spell TP.
And I learned that I once I started talking, Pablo, I learned that you have vacation on the Oregon coast and you have just as deep an appreciation for it as I do.
The air.
Oh,
I just want that air.
it's
man.
incomparable.
It really is. It's
What did you learn
moist.
today, Pablo?
What I learned is that in my friendships, I'm inspired by Jeb Barton and by Bill Walton. I am honored to get to know people like you guys, for whom the Ian of Ian and the Katie of Katie are things that I am always trying to remember, transcend whatever the f is happening right now in this moment on this planet. I want to continue to cultivate friendships with people that I will carry literally forever, insofar as forever also encapsulates whatever is beyond space and time. That's what I want, and that's what I found out today.
Pablo has to have somebody to podcast with after the flesh is gone.
That's right.
Yeah.
Pablo will get lonely if he doesn't have friends.
Maybe the Pablo of Pablo will pay the Katie of Katie.
Mm.
The Ian of Ian has to leave right now. Although the Ian will stay.
Wait a minute. We have one more breaking news update.
Oh, what?
Oh.
You got me. You got me.
Oh, that was a juicy one.
This has been Pablo Torre Finds Out, a Meadowlark Media production. And I'll talk to you next time.